Most of the engineers think of it like, okay, probably they create websites for companies who don't really even have a website yet. Reality is, last year alone, our technology powered delivery of advertisements to over 1 billion people worldwide. In terms of incremental sales, our technology generated over $50 billion in incremental sales for our customers. This is huge planet scale impact. This is huge, highly scalable technology. But it's not visible outside. So at some point of time, we decided, okay, we need to follow the Netflix example. And Netflix, basically in the same shoes. For normal people, Netflix looks like a media company, the largest in the world entertainment company. For us, people in the technology world, Netflix is a technological leader. We decided to become more visible in the technological ecosystem. And because of that, we are doing those meetups. Because of that, we are going to the conferences. And you're going to hear more and more about us in the technological space. And of course, our main motivation is hiring. The company is growing like crazy. The company was started about 12 years back, never got a single dollar of the outside investment. When I joined the company 1.5 years back, we had 450 employees. It was 1.5 years back. Now we have 900 employees. We are growing with the speed of the Moore law. This year, we are going to have to hire at least 50 more engineers. So we are growing very, very fast. And of course, if you want to get something from the community, if you want to get those engineers from the community, it means we need to contribute to the community. We need to do something for the community. And these meetups is our way to contribute to community. We want to offer our venues. We have offices in many locations. We are offering our venues for these meetups. We have partnered with this organization called AI Camp. They are doing AI meetups basically worldwide. And we are welcoming basically speakers. Of course, the first idea that I want you to remember, you're going to forget a lot. Sorry, speakers, but you guys are going to forget a lot from what you're going to hear today. It's normal. You hear a lot, but you're forgetting most of that. If you remember just one thing, please remember we are hiring. And we are hiring the best of the best. Sorry, guys. But they're going to remember more than one thing. If you're going to remember two things, the second thing, we are looking for speakers. We really want these meetups to be a place where community collaborates. Yes, we are looking for candidates for new engineers, but I'm okay even if the recruiters from other companies come to these events. I want startups to start coming here and talk to investors. I want investors to start coming here looking for startups. Let it be the place where the AI community collaborates, interacts, and grows. So, but let's do a few experiments. So we already established, most of you didn't know about us before. How did you learn about this meetup, this specific event? I send you a message. Raise your hand if I send you a message. Okay. And if I send you a message, it means that I believe you have something to say. I believe that you are really experienced professional, and the industry, the community can contribute from learning from your experience. So during the break or after the second presentation, there will be a break between the presentations, and then, of course, after the second presentation, we are going to have to drink wine, to chat, to network. Let's chat. I really, really want you guys to come and speak at our next events. I really, really want this event not to be just PMG event or the meetup, but to be a meetup for the entire community to grow. Okay, so there is a bunch of people whom I invited personally through LinkedIn. But it's like 10, 15 people, right? What about the others? How did you learn about this event? Meetup.com. Raise your hands if you learned about the event from meetup.com. Okay, it's like half of the audience. What else? Where else did we learn? Interesting. Okay. What else? How else did we learn about the event? Oh, interesting. Cool. Okay, but it appears meetup.com is the main source of information about. Wonderful. Thank you once again. Thank you so much for coming. It really means a lot for us, because for us it's just the second meetup here in Austin, and we didn't really know how many people were going to show and whether it's going to work or not. And thank you to our speakers. We have amazing speakers. And the first speaker is from a small startup that has a few offices, and actually he flew from their office in Chicago specifically to talk to us here in Austin. The name of this startup is Amazon. The product, and I believe they're a startup, but I believe them when they believe that they're a startup, right? And Milan flew here from Chicago. He is going to talk about data strategies for AI in this brand new post-software AI reality. So please give a round of applause to our speaker from AWS. And Milan, the stage is yours.
Somewhere up in there. Switch it up. All right. Hey, how you doing, everyone? Hey, my name is Milan. I'm a former 10-year Marine platoon commander. Didn't know I ever wanted to be in tech, and then I found my way in tech pretty randomly. Got out the Marines doing like IDS, information decision sciences, because you could imagine as we set up distribution centers all over the globe and theaters, 10 times the size of a Walmart distribution center, the level of efficiency is pretty good, right? And then when I got out the Marines, went to Target as a store manager, went to Aldi, finally learned what customer service is at Aldi. Got fired from Target because, people would come to work and they would just work slow, and I just didn't understand it, and it taught me a lot about just people, right? Like, hey, people got issues, single moms, the world's a different place. In the Marines, there's no such thing as a fucking sick day. What is that? Like, everybody shows up, you go to work, you get it done, right? And so going to Target taught me to be a little bit human, to understand that, hey, people are different. They have physical disabilities. They perform different. They act different. You need to motivate them differently. Everybody has this different level of learning, right? Some people get it quick. Some people just have a different aptitude. So as I started to get these jobs, then I went to take over for head of sales for Dyson for a while, brought Dyson to the US. Dyson, they let me get my MBA while I was there. Then while I was there, I heard about this thing called data science. I thought it was fancy, so I went back to University of Chicago, got the data science degree and a master's in data science. But what was interesting is that I couldn't get a job in data science because I didn't know how to code. They didn't teach you coding in data science school then. They just taught you R, and then that was it. So if you went to Meta or somewhere else, you couldn't get a job because you couldn't pass the data structures and algorithms test, So I got pretty frustrated there, right? So then I applied for Amazon, didn't get the gig at Amazon, so flew back 3 or 4 times, still rejected me. I'm like, all right, forget about it. Still try to get data science jobs, couldn't get data science jobs. Went back and applied for Amazon again the first time, which was like the 7th time, right? Then I finally got it after a whole row of interviews, but they wouldn't give me a data science job. You know what they gave me? They put me in charge of kitchen and wedding, a $3 billion kitchen and wedding division. So that was like rough, it was like, what the hell, man? Like, how can I get into data science? It just wasn't working out, right? But then when I got the job at Amazon, we had all these ratings coming in, but the ratings would be like, hey, I love your product, 1 star, or I hate your product, 1 star, or I love your product, but the comments would be really, really nasty, right? So I'm like, oh, well, let's just summarize these things really quickly and see what's going on here. And then I'm like, all right, well, this is wrong, this is incorrect. you know, we can classify this thing by, that's not even a product related issue. It's a shipping related issue, or it's a quality related issue. And, you know, Amazon, who we are, what would we do? We would send the buyers back to China, wherever they made the product in person, to say, fix it within 90 days. And here are your last 300 reviews, right? We were pretty hardcore back then in like 2015. And so that's when we first really started using ratings and reviews, because you had a business operator who now understands the data science work. And we were just doing this in Excel documents at the time, right? So then, as you know, fast forward to today, went back to school during COVID, got a degree, finally got an engineering degree from Northwestern for artificial intelligence engineering, finally learned how to code, can pass the data structures test. And I know I like what I'm doing, right? But I say that just because the journey is this, man. Like, you could start somewhere today and tomorrow you'll be in a whole nother place. But what I want to tell you about AI is that you can learn this stuff, man, right? You don't have to learn how to exactly code right now. There are 1,000 other AI tools that make you hugely efficient from a media perspective, a marketing perspective, like you name it, there's a tool for it, and it could automate so many different functions. So the message is, one, you can learn AI. Two, you got to learn AI. It's not an option anymore. And then three, if you're already working in a STEM domain, you got to expand your knowledge a little bit, right? Learn every tool you can, every tool you can. And if you're a future machine learning engineer or already a machine learning engineer, make sure you learn the cloud, right? Because what happens is that most people apply for jobs and you can't get the gig. But you know, if you just did some GPT, hey, match my skills to the job description, spit back out, force order rank, you can make a prompt that does all this, right? You could better align to yourself, you know, what future jobs you want, and then you can see the gaps, right? But as you start to see those gaps, you just got to keep working hard. So the story is, you can start from anywhere to get in this AI space. And now I run the financial service capital markets division. So what that means exactly is JP Morgan or State Farm will come to us and say, hey, we want to build a model. We want to do this type of thing. From ideation all the way to observability to deployment, we build out the prototype. And then once we build out the prototype, the next question is, well, can you take the rest yourself, or do you need some help? Do we need to give you a partner? And then we'll find a consulting partner that will come in and help that company deploy. And if they can't deploy, then we'll just do the whole entire deployment to observability, give them some best practices, help them set up an AI center of excellence, teach their team what that actually means, and then go back, you know, once a month, spend like 4 hours, 8 hours, upskilling them on different AI literacy topics. So what does that mean? Every data scientist is not a machine learning engineer. That's almost like a total different skill set. And the same with the AI engineer, right? Total different skill sets. We keep trying to like force them all together, but they're different skill sets with huge gaps, right? So if you take that, hey, what's your Q1? What's your Q2 AI literacy strategy across your teams, and say, hey, this month, this is a tool we're using. We're going to dive deep on it with the whole entire team. That includes marketing, it includes finance, right? Because they can use all these tools now. Then you go back and say, hey, we're going to, you know, dive deep on version control or observability, this type of thing. Just have this AI literacy cadence. That's the only way that you're going to be able to bring a whole organization along really, really quickly. So don't underestimate the person who's a cart attendant in Audi. He might be the next future AI engineer or something like that. Don't underestimate the front door secretary, because she just might be a little bit more savvy than you are in the AI. You just don't know it, because she'll whip out a tool in a minute. And manually, she's doing this by hand today, potentially, or he give that person a tool to automate what they do. Their level of efficiency is gonna like just explode, right? So let's get into the presentation here. It's no stage. Can you help me change the slides really quick here? Yeah, you can just hit that, man, and I'll just ring it. All right, so the topic today is data is your differentiator. And the reason why we chose this topic is because most people just don't understand, you know, you can't have an AI strategy if you don't have a sound data strategy. If your pipelines of data are coming in are incorrect, if the data just doesn't make sense, if you don't even know where these pipelines are coming, and guess what? Terry left your company like 2 years ago. When's the last time somebody refreshed the code that he used, right? Some of the libraries might not even work anymore. So unless you understand having a data strategy, that's the first step to being an AI literacy company. And most people are just trying to speed through and say, hey, I want to use this tool because it's ChatGPT, or Amazon has this new, you know, Bedrock thing, or Google has this Vertex AI thing. You could use that stuff, but if it's not attached to your data, you're really not, you're just scratching the surface. Because guess what? Anybody on the street is going to take the same large language model or the one that comes out tomorrow and use it, right? So how do you, achieve and sustain a competitive advantage from there, right? Okay. All right, quick agenda, introduction to Gen AI, just to make sure we level set the playing field so people know what that means. We'll look at how Gen AI is transforming some of the industries. We'll give you a perspective on how data is really the true differentiator. Because most people know this, 99% of all the data for all these models are scraped off the web, right? The other 1% of data is still on-prem. That 1% of data is the competitive advantage you need to win against your competitor. That's what people don't understand. They're like, hey, I got the biggest model. That really doesn't make sense, right? I think GPT-4, if you use it, it's $60 per millions of tokens output. That's like pretty expensive, right? Claude's 50% of cost. So do you need a 178 billion parameter model when you can use a model for 10 cents that gives you a better summarization output? So those are the type of questions that you got to realize and understand, right? We'll do a quick demo if we have a few seconds. We won't probably go into responsible AI. That's a whole nother topic, but let's keep moving. All right, so this is one of those consulting filler slides where they give you some background and history and say, hey, data is at the tipping point, all this type. Data is not at the tipping point, right? What's at the tipping point is everybody's excited about this thing, right? We're not at the tipping point yet. When companies start to get their data off-prem and use it for competitive advantage, then we'll be at the tipping point. We're in a scratching surface point right now, right? We're scratching the surface. Things sound cool. We want to use the new shiny whistle. But we can't really use a shiny whistle yet because we still have opportunities in-house that we need to do. All right, so I'll stop here. Does anybody know what generative AI is? Any takers? All right. I think I heard somebody over here by the generated from what it knows. So it can predict the next word. The more knowledge you have, it's really hard. I don't know. So he gave me a software engineering definition, I think pretty clear. So how would you explain that to a 10-year-old? In a way that they make sense based on what you know. Yes. Close enough, right? Yes. Yeah, so you got the generative part, you got everything right. So if you were to say, what's generative AI? It's just a type of technology that creates net new content. That's it. Simple as that if you're explaining to a 10-year-old. So then how would you explain machine learning to a 10-year-old? Any takers? I didn't ask what's machine learning. I just said, how would you explain that to a 10-year-old? Wow, I got silent in here. Oh man, I like it. He says, I teach some machines to do some things on their own. I like Google's definition better. I think Cassie termed it right. She's like, think about machine learning as just a thing labeler, right? Is it red or is it blue? Is it spam or is it not spam? Is it fraud or is it not fraud, right? And then do that in some automated fashion if you were to explain it to a 10-year-old. But good, great work. Okay, let's keep moving it. All right, so generative AI is just a type of technology that creates net new content that was not created before, whether it's ideas, conversations, stories, music, video, code, you name it. It's just a type of artificial intelligence that creates net new content that wasn't created before. All right, let's keep moving here. And we already know that generative AI is creating significant business value and, of course, boosting workers' productivity. We got some latency here. It's coming. All right, there we go. Coming. All right. So of course, Gen AI can be used in a large number of use cases. I just put the 5 best use cases that we found, of course, at Amazon that we're seeing right now, whether it's healthcare, life sciences, industrial manufacturing. Clients are coming to us, and these are generally the top 5 things that they're coming to us with, right? Financial services, whether it's financial documentation, intelligent advisory, fraud detection, you name it. In retail, same thing. In media and entertainment, it gets even better. Next slide. And then in media and entertainment, entertainment, we have hyper personalization in real time, sentiment analysis, dynamic creative optimization, brand safety, fraud detection. I'm reading this next slide. It's coming. It's coming, guys. It's coming. Just a little latency there. All right. It's almost there. It's coming. No, it's here. Let's unhide it for a second and then just try to share it again. All right. Let's try to do this. Or not. Let's do it this way. Let's just do it. See, now it's going. So let's just stop screen share. There. And then let's share this one. All right. Ooh. Where's the thing? Yeah, there we go. Share. Let's just share the whole screen. Make it easy. Yeah, no, let's just do it that way, man. Yeah, we don't need any notes. Okay, let's do it, man. Okay. Yeah, so we talked about this already. All right, let's keep rocking, right? Does it work? All right. No, still not moving, man. It's just moving slow, guys. It's coming. Hey, it came. All right. And you can go to the next one. So yeah, right now what's happening, of course, it's easy to focus on that new shiny technology. And that's what's over the hood, right? But what's under the hood is what most people aren't really focusing on today, right? And it's a lot going on over the hood, right? You can use an API and tap into some large language model, but what's really that differentiating factor for your business is like what's under the hood, and are you really using the right foundational model for your business? Which in the next presentation he'll dive deep on that. What does your databases look like? The data integrations. Again, it all comes back to this underlying theme: is your data in your house up to speed and ready for this next wave of technology, which is Gen AI? And so today's theme is data is your differentiator. Everybody has to say it. Data is your differentiator. Almost, man. One more time. Data is your. All right, I like it. I like it. Because if somebody tells you something different about AI, your next question should be, well, tell me about the underlying data, right? If they can't talk about that, then maybe they're not the right person, right? So most people are using just generic generative AI right now, right? You just go use GPT-4, you go to Google's Model Garden, pick a model, same with Amazon or wherever you're at, right? But that's really not like that competitive advantage, right? But if you use generative AI that actually understands your customer, that's going to give you way more feats and competitive advantage today, right? Keep going. Oh, it's not updating? Oh, it's still not updating. Man, all right. How can we do this here? All right, any suggestions on how we can move this with this latency piece here? No? No?
Please come closer. People! Do you hear me? Come closer. We are about to continue our presentation. Sorry for the technical issues. And we're about to start. Guys, come closer to the screen, come closer to the speaker. There will be more opportunities to network. There will be more opportunities to chat. For now, we are resuming our presentation.
And so it looks like we just got to squeeze in tight, you know. We're confident that this visual piece works over here. We're not confident about over there. I got this echo. Turn your volume on. Hello? Is that better? Yeah. Yep. All right, we can squeeze in tight. It's okay. It's just like a marine operation. If it doesn't break, you know, we will make it work, right? All right, so we're getting back in the groove here, right? Everybody got the wine? Everybody's ready? All right, let's do it. All right, so in this previous slide here, we talked about this the generative AI piece and the data piece, right? But when you start thinking about this Gen AI piece, right, it's not like something new. You're not reinventing your whole entire infrastructure, right? You might just want to create a more personal virtual agent that makes things happen in real time, right? And marketing, traditional marketing, you can't really produce hundreds of thousands of content recommendations in real time. Just not possible, right? You can do it the old way, get the last 3 months of data, download it, put those folks in personas, do some machine learning, and then, hey, we think we got a good enough model. Let's push that one back to deployment. Well, now you don't have to do that anymore. Oh, yeah, there you go. So booking.com does this every single day in real time to give you streamlined itineraries, custom to your zip code, custom to what you want to do. And they do this effortlessly every single day. And you don't need 1,000 marketing people to do it, but you need the marketing team who has the domain expertise to use the tools to give to the AI engineers on how to steer this thing correctly, right? So the AI engineers can't do this alone, and you're not going to get rid of the marketing team because if you get some software engineers, we're not too smart, man. You know, not too smart. They're like Marines, you know. You tell us to do something, we'll do it. You say move the car across the street, we'll move it across the street. We just roll it over there. Now, whatever condition it gets there when it gets there, it might not be an operable condition, right? So when people think in terms of, hey, well, if we use AI, we can get rid of a department or whatever. No, it doesn't work that way. If you're going to use AI, now you need the smartest domain experts on your team to really influence those AI engineers to create something of value, right? So that's what Booking.com did. Next. And then you want content that's on brand, right? You could look at real-time inventory, your brand book, all this marketing stuff that takes so much time and energy and effort to make. And now you could do that in just seconds. And think about the PGA for the golfers out there. Like this content on brand is absolutely amazing. So think about, I don't know, let's just make something up. A PGA GPT where you can talk to a model, go back through 100 years of video in real time, and then say, hey, can you tell me about this putt in 1920? Like that's absolutely amazing to do. And then spit back the video from natural language for any customer, or if they want those player customer stats in real time, now you'll be able to do that, right? Does anybody know how many video cameras on a golf course watching the ball? Any takers? So it's roughly 450 plus at any given moment, at any given angle, watching a ball, right? So if you ever go to the tour, one of the golf shops, say, hey, you know, is there Amazon folks here? Can you, take us backstage? You always see those big white buses out there, or those white trailers. And those white trailers, it's about, 15 people per trailer. And everybody is watching not only the caddies, but the ball. If the tree in the background moves a certain way, they dispatch people out right away to make sure nobody's cheating. Like, this is absolutely amazing, right? But now you could do this in real time with all these cameras, right? So where we're going with this brand, being on point with this brand and content is absolutely amazing. The other thing is, what about player stats and next gen stats, right? People gamble a lot. And, let's say a player hits the ball and the 3 players behind him are the best players, and those best players miss their putt or miss their birdie. Well, now the next 3 best players can buy that information in real time and then use that information to adjust their whole entire golf game, right? With next gen stats. Like, this stuff is absolutely amazing, right? Okay. Oh, conversational search. I think everybody thinks the solution to AI is just to build a chatbot, right? I think that's, man, if I could hear that one more time, like, hey, we could build a chatbot that does this. And then you start to ask a little bit deeper, like, well, what's the efficiency or what's the ROI? And most of the time, they can't even model out the ROI. So when we think in terms of creating these solutions individually by POC, you should still be able to model out the cost of it, right? By token usage, by what model you use, all this, you can model that out on an Excel spreadsheet. And then you can model out the cost savings, the churn, or the number of customers you acquire, with this model in production, right? So you could actually develop models for use of these individual AI POCs. A lot of times people say, well, I can't see the ROI right away. You're not going to see it right away, right? Because the ROI is going to be achieved in a number of different ways, and it's just not going to be, hey, I'm profitable if I put this thing in production, right? So this next company here, which is pretty nice, Cardera does content creation in hundreds of thousands of documents in real time, right? And if you think in terms of, like, let's say if you had a litigation to go to, and in that litigation you had hundreds of thousands of legal documents, and you need to read it by 8 a.m., it's not going to happen, right? But you can use different tools and technologies to quickly summarize those things, extrapolate the context, and give you way more pieces of information that the initial attorney didn't have, right? And now you could do that in real time. And you can say, hey, can you help me develop a case based on this other case law, right? So you have law, GPT, Reveal, a few other places that are actually developed specific LLMs for just law, right? And I think that's absolutely amazing. All right, so your data is your what? Come on, man, there's no motivation, man. All right, so we all know we got the theme here. Data needs quality. Generative AI needs quality data. Like, just hands down. I'm not going to labor more examples on here. You have to have a sound data strategy in place. And of course, one of 3 or 32% of companies reported today that they're able to realize value from the data. That's like 2/3 of every company still not even touching the data that they have. The data's on-prem. And then to get to the procurement process, just for you to use a new tool at a company is unbearable, right? Because then you have, folks in the company, VPs or whoever, I don't believe in AI. I don't believe in this stuff. You can't touch this data. You just can't ever touch it. Then when can we touch the data? We could never touch the data, man. And this is like a challenge here, right? Because now it's a paradigm shift. And then that goes back to what? That AI literacy. If even the execs, procurement, risk, legal, your AI governance team, if they don't understand this technology, they should be going to all these data science trainings and AI trainings, just like everybody else sitting there, so they can understand the technology. And there are 3 things we really got to do to change this, right? It's all about culture. It starts from the top. And sometimes, even at the top, you won't get decisions made. So a lot of times people come to me and say, hey, Milan, I can't get this done. They want to adopt these new tools. I'm like, all right, well, who's the influencer? Maybe you could talk to that person to influence the leadership team that way, right? Still can't get nowhere. So this AI literacy piece and people and process piece is absolutely crucial for you to nail down, right? And as consultants or future consultants, when we even build POCs for folks, we run into a lot of issues. We're like, all right, well, build this POC and it takes 4 weeks. And then they're like, oh, but procurement didn't approve you to use this machine learning tool. And procurement is not going to let us use this thing and that thing. So unless you bring the whole organization along faster, I mean, every single every person, every role in an organization has to come along or you're going to fail. And let me tell you, here's a story from airline this summer. We have 2 airlines I manage, not me manage, but I do the AI stuff for them, right? And so one airline is like, hey, we're going to put this POC in production. It's going to be amazing. And I'm scratching my head like, all right, I know you got other opportunities here. Is that just one? Yeah, well, the data science team has this thing and they want to use it, right? The other airline across the street was like, look, we think we found like 50 plus use cases. How can we see which ones of these work, right? So we vetted out all of 50 something plus. We got it down to 27. And in 30 days, we got 30 POCs vetted, up to speed, and running, right? Like, that's how you need to roll. So if you're thinking in terms of building POCs that takes weeks or months, every 3 or 4 days, you could build a new PC and get it to production. It's not hard, right? This is just like the tools are there to do it. And just think about that. One airline, You can't get no text data. They won't give you updates on your flight itinerary. They won't rebook you automatically if your flight changes. And the other airline across the street is like rolling, man. They love it. I got the app. Hey, get updates on the app, automatically rebooks your flights, like you name it, right? I'm not going to say what airlines, but like that's just a clear example of these slow companies that refuse to change, or they don't have the right people, processes, and AI literacy in place to understand whether this technology is going. All right, so here's a good one right here. So in the screen here, you see this data application, right? You have some data, you use some machine learning, you partner with your marketing team. Then your marketing team takes all of this data, they create some personas on the last like 90 days of data. Then they break it down a little bit more and say, hey, we think, this could be some churn, or we have some opportunity over here, this type of thing, right? And that's not AI, right? That's like traditional automated machine learning. And there's nothing generative AI about that, right? But if you take your same process, given you have a sound data strategy and an AI literate team, you could then layer in a large language model, and then you could generate content in real time and automate that process that was taking you months to do already. So think in terms of AI as this way. You're not reinventing the wheel. You have a process up here, and you're going to layer another process on top, which is AI, given you have a great data strategy, right? We're not using new infrastructure and all those things, but we are going to incorporate new tools to partner with existing processes that were good already to get up and running and really accelerate your company's growth. Okay. Oh, wait, your data's your what? Baby, there we go. All right. So these 5 things, so we narrowed down like what are the 5 things that matter to people and customers today, right? So customers told us 5 things, and these 5 things, if you nail those 5 things, you can get through legal, you can get through procurement, you can get through your CEO. And if you can't get to the CEO, just go to the board. Or another way to do that is go to the consulting company that he has a friendship with, and then they'll talk to the board to push it back down, right? And then you get a tops-down approach, but then, of course, the consulting company is going to leave you with this huge, 10-figure, 7-figure bill, right? But at least you're making movement, and you're making some influence. So that was a joke. So these 5 things are this. The first thing is, hey, you can't touch my data. Your data is not going to be on the internet. So Amazon, kind of just like Google, right? Like we make great products, and we're not going to use tools that's going to compromise your data. So I'm not an advocate for just AWS, but like Google makes great products too, right? None of us are going to make products that are going to compromise your data, right? AWS specifically, our tools are made in a way that protect your data. And guess what? When you use a large language model, we bring your model off the internet. You download that model into your VPC. Whatever updates or changes or fine tuning you do with that model, that's your model now in your VPC. You might not have the model weights depending on the model owner, but now you have this fine-tuned model in your environment that goes nowhere. Only you have access to it with your KMS keys, right? And then it's choice, right? People want choice, but they don't know how to get choice. And what I mean by choice is it one model to rule them all? Absolutely not. Do you need a 175 billion parameter model to do a summarization task? Absolutely not. You're just wasting money, right? And let me tell you, this prompt engineering is the most expensive thing to this AI piece. If you're picking the wrong model, and if you're picking the wrong prompts that give ineffective or not optimized output, guess what? You're going to pay for that. And this is funny. If you leave your data science teams and don't control for the models that they use, when you get the bill on Monday, when you see how much they've been playing on the weekend, and they say, hey, can you recreate this Star Wars movie for me and improve the script? Somebody's got to pay for that, right? So you need strict control. You want to give them freedom of choice? Absolutely. So AWS tools give you freedom of choice. We don't have one model. We have like everybody's model, right? And that's how you should roll, because every model has a specific purpose built for a specific type of function that you need, right? And then, of course, they want ease of use, where in today's environment and tools that you have, especially with AWS, you could select the model, point to your data, fine-tune the model, just like that, 2 clicks, and then deploy the model. That's like 3 clicks. So what does that mean? We're abstracting away all the software engineering work, and now your analysts in your finance team or HR team, operations, preventive maintenance team, they can deploy generative AI solutions without having to write code. So now as you build their AI literacy up, they'll understand how to augment the machine learning data science team way more effectively and efficiently, right? And then of course, costs, I won't get into costs. You got to be mindful. Prompt engineering, the token usage in and out, you're going to pay for that, right? Cost, the size of the model matters. And it just doesn't mean I got an expensive model, but think of cost this way. If you take a model off the internet, it's just a model in the wild, right? If you use a proprietary model on some of these servers like AWS, especially the ones that are in Bedrock, they're proprietary models that are not available on the internet. So the Claude version that you get online may be totally different that you're going to find on their website or someplace else, right? And that's by design because we put additional controls for responsible AI and guardrails on those models because we think of them as out of the box. You should have an enterprise organization and be ready to use those things. And we control for toxicity, inappropriate behavior, inappropriate response, all these things. If you take a model free from Hugging Face or right off the internet, one of your data scientists or machine learning engineers, they're going to have to build all those controls manually to do that, right? And so just be mindful of that. And then from a responsible AI perspective, all right, this is a good one. Where does responsible AI start? And your data is your what? Your data is your what? You're right. The young man back here with the gray hair, Brent, Brent says it starts at your data. You're absolutely right. So when we say it starts at your data, from data curation all the way down to the model you use, that's where that process starts. And everywhere through that whole entire journey, for how you use that data, you better have a process in place with your data engineers, your data analysts. Like you have to have, and then you got to have the strict versioning all the way through, right? Because you want to control for everything. And you want to be able to go back in time and look at everything. So you have to have a responsible AI practice in place from start to finish all the way through. Now, responsible AI practice just means, is it an AI center of excellence, data center of excellence? All that's the same thing, doing the same thing, right? You want to put some ethical controls in place. You want to control for the regulatory environment to come. And then you need to think in terms of how do you vet the next procurement team that offers your company a third party, what do you call it? A third party, what do you call it? A third party audit that's coming, right? And you saw the new White House AI direction. It's like, hey, if you put models at this large and this thing in deployment with these parameters, you need a third party audit, right? So you need to be thinking about that now. Okay. All right. So when you think about a generative AI stack, starting from the bottom, it's really, really easy, right? So just let me explain this really easy. So at the bottom of the stack, go ahead. So at the bottom of the stack on AWS, we have the actual silicon Trainium chips from scratch, right? So Bloomberg GPT, all these large models are all built on Amazon, and we have our own custom tool sets to do that, right? So depending on where you are in your AI journey, you might not be building your large language model today, but you will tomorrow. And let me tell you, hundreds of thousands of companies are building their own large language models. And why are they building their own large language models? Because they want that competitive advantage. And where's all our data at? The competitive stuff is generally on-prem, yes, right? And so if they're going to build a model, take the data off of prem, that's going to be an expensive effort. So from the bottom of the stack, we have that whole entire infrastructure for you to build large language models from scratch. And in the middle of the stack, we have that software developer platform, which is two phases, right? Which is that SageMaker developer platform where you take a notebook, download the notebook, use the model that you want. And then on the other hand, of course, is the Bedrock application where you just select large language model as a service, select your data, fine tune or deploy it quickly, right? And then at the top of the stack, these are the apps that you see everybody using every single day, right? On the internet, right? No competitive advantage. Hey, I got an app that does this. I have an app that makes a funny story. I got an app that tells me a bedtime story. And you could do any type of thing like that, but those are consumers. So you have builders in the bottom, and in the middle, you have those consumers who are actually utilizing the technology, and then you have the everyday consumers at the very, very top of the stack. And so going back to this data story, it's all about having your data data strategy in place from your data lake to your databases to analytics. And only then, when you have that sound data strategy, can you get to a point where you could up your data science machine learning game and get into the Gen AI space. All right, and then that, of course, that's where the fun stuff happens, right? All right, and then this is where those sales slides come in, right? So any vendor that comes to talk to you, they always talk about something sales. My job is not to talk to you about sales, just about what tools are out there for you to explore. And then in the break, when we switch over to the next speaker, I can stick around and give you demos of how the tools work without having to write code. And then you can leave here with some confidence, like, dude, I just built that, right? So I'll stick around for that. But okay. So Amazon has two services, which and we promote Bedrock because it's large language model as a service. The equivalent to Google would be Google Vertex AI. They have Model Garden. We have something similar. You can customize. You could take the foundation model, you take your data, you make some customizations, and then the level of hierarchy, just so you know, is you do some prompt engineering, you do retrieval augmented generation. That means you just control for a corpus of data where you have that large language model control for this source, where it gets all of its information. And then if that's still not giving you the level of accuracy you need, then you could fine tune a model or just build a model yourself. And then if you hit the button one more time, then if you see at the bottom, the prompt engineering, the cost is minuscule. All the way to the right, the cost goes up, right? You had a question in the back. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I can do that on the break. Yes. Okay, next slide. All right, so the tools, of course, on Amazon give you choice, freedom of customization, and of course, you can integrate those large language models across your whole organization in a secure and private way, right? We always protect your data no matter what. And then one more thing, even when you fine tune the model in Bedrock, that model stays within that service, and that's your model, only you have ownership of it. So that new model, you might not have the weights, but you still can fine tune it, but you still have sole ownership on it, and only you have the access to the keys for access. One more question in the back, the young lady. Oh, I didn't hear the last note there. So her question was, I didn't mention OpenAI's model. So we don't use OpenAI model. It doesn't, they have a unique agreement with Microsoft, and so only Microsoft will have sole partnership with the use of the OpenAI API, where they can integrate it into all of their products. Now, if it was up to Amazon, I mean, we have one model, right? Like everything on Earth in one place, right? So of course, now. So if it was up to me, I mean, in SageMaker, you could use OpenAI today, but it's just so expensive, right? I mean, to ping their API, that thing is like, you're gonna like go bankruptcy using that thing. But again, the model is absolutely great, but is that the model you need, or is that the model for to customize your POC? And OpenAI GPT-4 or above, that's not really the model you want to put in enterprise ready production. Well, I don't want to say that. It's expensive, so I'll leave it there. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Yeah, this just reiterating the services keeps your data secure, and we support standards like HIPAA, GDPR. Go ahead. And then the other platform is the developer platform, which is not large language as a service, which is SageMaker. And most people know about SageMaker. And then within SageMaker, you can use any model that you want to use, and you can use OpenAI's model, whichever. So any of the models in the whole entire family of models, because every single model is really built for like different tasks. If you see AI 21 Labs, all the way down to a paraphraser, it's a specific model to a paraphraser, right? So maybe you build a system that uses an agent that does this one thing. Then it pulls this other model, a paraphraser, because it's, pennies on a dollar, but it gives you the highest accuracy. And then that's how you start to build your solution, because every part of that solution needs a specific model, a specific function. And then you always want to control for costs and latency, right? Okay. All right, so the whole stack is this, right? Whatever you need to build a large language model, we have the chips to do that in the most efficient, cost-effective way. If you need to build with other large language models or use them, we have the whole entire stack with SageMaker and Bedrock. And then if you just want to use any of those fancy services that use generative AI already, you could do that. So everything you need to accelerate your AI journey, we can skip through here really quick. All right, skip through here. I think you go one more time. Is that it? Yeah, you can go back. Okay. All right. So I hope this was like informative, and the message I want to leave you with, the first one is, your data is your what? Come on, man. Like, wake up, man. Were you too much wine? Your data is your what? Differentiator. You're absolutely right. So let's think about it. Before you leave here today, this next speaker, he's going to come out and give you some motivation and tell you all about how to select a large language model. But your thought process should be this. After I select that large language model, it's all about cost. It's all about accuracy, all these things you need to pay attention to. And this next speaker, he's an absolute motivator. He might not even use the slides, and he's going to get up here and really give you the down and dirty on how to select large language models specifically. Oh, where do we go? Hey, thank you, everyone. And I was looking for him to call him up. Hey, thank you, Vlad.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for awesome presentation. And again, sorry for technical issues. I promise you 3, 4, maybe 5 more meetups and we will get it. And we are going to make it perfect. Just give us some time to polish the process. Now, because we had that technical break related to the Wi-Fi issues, there is a suggestion not to make break right now between the presentations and immediately go to the second presentation, and after that do the networking. Or we can still do the break right now and do kind of intermediate networking and chat here. So what's your preference, guys? What do you think? Who votes to go immediately for the second presentation? Who votes to have a break? Well, it's been decided. Now, while our colleagues are trying to set up the environment and to fix the Wi-Fi issue, I actually wanted to have a short conversation with the audience about a question which was very, very important for me. How do we properly communicate to the legal people, to the procurement people, to the compliance people, our desire to move forward fast with AI, because their role, their job, they're getting paid to slow it down, to prevent risks. And we are getting paid to move forward fast. How do we deal with this situation? Anyone wants to share your experience? There are 2 of me. There is 1 of me. Anyone wants to share your experience? No one had this issue? Uh-huh.
The question was, how do we convince the legal procurement whose jobs are meant to slow down innovation and you as an engineering leader to progress that? I think it comes down to what they care about in their jobs. And so if they're, it starts with that first question, like what do you care about? What are your considerations when trying to do this? And then I think on your end, it's kind of a collaboration between building up that business case to justify the need in order to convince them to take that risk to make that jump. Because I think if all the checks and balances are there, then there's really no reason why technology should progress that way. Same reason for cloud over on-prem. Now we have fully managed services and AI. I think in the next couple of years, that's kind of the direction where we're going.
Is it theoretical thinking that you have, or is it the conversation that you actually had in your company and it resulted in convincing your colleagues from
It's actually both. I'm actually currently doing a market research project talking to InfoSec, architecture, engineering, legal, procurement about what they do care about when considering a SaaS technology, just because privacy is going to be top of concern, top of mind. And so that's kind of what I've been learning from my conversations is first it starts with the requirement and then moving from there. Yeah.
Thank you. And Brent also wanted to continue.
Yeah, on that, another aspect is to point at your competition, right? If your data is your differentiator, it's your differentiator to what? It's to your business, right? If your competition has already started to move in these spaces, then if ML in your industry, if ML has a foothold, that changes the paradigm. If you're not doing it, you're going to be a niche player at best, right? And that's not theoretical. I've used that in the past. It's not the only tool in the belt, but it's an important one to be able to point.
Did it work in your case?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, anyone else wants to share experience? Okay.
From my experience, a big part of it is starting with legal very early in the process and understanding where are their biggest concerns. It drives decisions that you make about what data you goes in, what controls you need to put in place from an early process. Like bring them in early, keep them informed throughout the process. And I mean, from my experience launching generative AI products at LinkedIn, that worked out really well.
Thank you. I actually very glad that we had a question from Microsoft because I used to work for Microsoft in the past and it was awesome experience. So how does Microsoft address this issue? How do you think about talking to legal, to procurement, explaining to them that, hey, probably we shouldn't slow down the process. Instead, we should move forward faster. What's the Microsoft point of view?
Yeah, I mean, that happens a lot. And I think I agree with the gentleman over there who mentioned things about, what their focus is and what do they care about, especially from a procurement point of view. A lot of their concerns might be more so about lowering costs, right? And so really building out what is the business value. For example, a company wants to put AI call summarization in their call center, right? And that sounds very expensive. It is very expensive, but when you look at the fact that they're spending several minutes after every call, these agents summarizing the call, and that probably costs the company $1 per employee, right? And they have or per call, they have about 40,000 calls per day. So that's it right there. That's 40K per day that they're saving and increasing productivity. And so just to like talk it out fully, it's really about finding where the value is for them and then being able to translate it to the customer and get the information you need to even figure out what the value is.
Awesome. Thank you. How are we doing in the corner? Are we ready to continue? Emily, I guess we are not. Okay, so I can share our experience, how we addressed it, because at the beginning of this process also we had this debate inside the company and we established a compliance or governance committee that were thinking about what's the right way to protect the company from all the risks associated with AI. And the debate was very healthy, but it was very, how to put it, extensive. So at some point of time, we decided to create an AI strategy, how we address AI in general from holistical business standpoint. And we decided to take a risk-based approach. And we said, hey, the first group of risks associated with AI is risks of adopting AI too fast. And there are privacy concerns, and there are, hallucinations. And there are all those issues that you read about in the news and which are scary, etc. So these are the risks associated with adopting AI too fast. And then the second group of risks, oh my God. He sounds so funny. Do I sound like him? Really? Okay, the second group of risks are risks associated with adopting AI too slow. The competitors will move forward faster than us. The industry is going to evolve and customers simply will not need our products anymore, etc., etc. And we concluded that the first group of risks are traditional business risks, the risks that might impact our revenue or maybe our profit. The second group of risks are existential risks. These are the risks that may remove our company from the business within just a few years. And yes, we still need to address both groups of risks. There is no way to ignore any of those groups. But if we don't pay attention to the second group of risks, we are going to disappear. And we, let me remind you, we are technically, we look like marketing agency, right? And in marketing agency, if you read all those reports, it's the marketing jobs that are going to be impacted the most by AI. The copywriters, the designers, etc. But as you remember, we are actually a fake marketing agency. We are a software company that pretends to be a marketing agency. And I actually lead the engineering organization. And if you read those reports, it's the engineering jobs that also are going to be impacted the first. And the software developers are going to disappear from the surface of the planet. And we are at the intersection. So either we move forward fast or we are not going to exist in a few years. And basically that's the approach that we are taking as a company. Of course, we are trying to address both groups of the risks, but we decided that we are moving super fast. We are moving as fast as possible and probably twice faster because it's a question of our existence. And how are we doing in the corner? 2 more minutes. And the way I used to convince our friends from business teams was basically a reference to ice delivery industry. Who knows about ice delivery industry? Who can share ice delivery? Ice is like cold water in a like not liquid form, and delivery like transporting. Anyone knows the story? So at some point of time, ice delivery industry was a huge industry in the United States. 2% of the US population, 2% of the US population. For comparison, in the software industry, we have less than 1% of the US population currently working. At that point of time, 2% of the US population were working in the ice delivery industry. Well, there was no electricity, there were no refrigerators, and it was kind of hot around. So people would harvest ice in the mountains. And they would transport that ice down, and then there were special ships equipped to transport ice across the sea, and then to those regions where it was hot, like Texas. And then there was this infrastructure to store and distribute ice. There were ice houses, huge warehouses designed to store ice for months in hot climate. And in buildings for each people, there were, like now we have those small doors for cats and dogs to go inside. At that point of time, there were those different types of small doors to push ice inside when it was delivered. And at some point of time, the industry became huge. It became international. They started creating artificial lakes in Norway, and they transported ice from Norway to the United States, from New Zealand, apparently. It was huge business operation until someone invented refrigerator. And then just a few decades, and the entire industry, 2% of the US population became jobless. I mean, of course, not jobless, they found new jobs, but the entire industry disappeared. And of course, yes, it took like a few decades, and one can say like 50 years. Yeah. And ChatGPT was only introduced about a year back, so we still have like 49 years ahead of us, right? But reality is, as we all know, Eliza, the very first chatbot that emulated behavior of a therapist, was created at MIT. What was that year? Who remembers? 60 what? 64. 1964. 1961 is when IBM introduced Shoebox. Who remembers what was that? Raise your hand if you... Come on, guys. You don't know what? Well, shoebox is a box which was the size of shoebox. It was introduced by IBM on some of the world fairs. And the idea was at that point of time, calculators, they didn't actually have screens. They were connected to printers. So someone who was using calculator would enter a number plus another number and it would print a result. So IBM decided entering numbers was too hard. Let's create a voice interface for that. And they created that device, which was literally the size of shoebox. Of course, at that point of time, they were using vacuum lamps. There was no microprocessors. And it could understand 16 words, numbers from 1 to, or from 0 to 9, and operations, plus, minus, equals, etc. Yes, it was super naive, super simple, but it was still voice recognition. It was 1961. So this is when they started doing refrigerators in the software world. And we are at the end of that cycle, that 50 or 60, whatever number of years cycle. We are not at the beginning. So it's a question of survival. And when we are talking to those procurement people about them losing their job in 2 years, not because they're going to be underperforming, but because the company is going to disappear in 2 years. Initially, they're kind of skeptical, but eventually they start to listen. So basically, that's our experience. And as I said, our strategy is to move forward as fast as possible. And with that, let me ask you one final question. Imagine, oh, no, a few final questions. First of all, how much money OpenAI raised? How much money did someone? 10 billion, plus minus 11 billion, right? I think it was 11 billion. Imagine there is a startup. There is, and you know, OpenAI is a startup. Imagine there is another startup that created a model which offers, say, 80% of the same functionality of the functionality that is currently offered by ChatGPT. Imagine that they're pretty small, 50 people. How much money do you think they had to raise to get to that state of 80% of functionality similar to what, or maybe even better than what OpenAI is doing? 500 billion? Any billion? Million. Half a billion. Half a billion. So 20 times less than OpenAI. Any other ideas? That's ambitious. Okay. 10 million, not billion, million. Do you agree? Who thinks more? 4 million. Guys, you're amazing. You really, really believe that people are smart. People are smart, but not that smart. So the company that we are going to hear from right now, they actually, the company I was talking about, they created, they were speaking at our meetup here last month, and I was amazed by what I saw. I hope you're going to be amazed as well. They basically created something that works comparable or maybe even better to OpenAI. So far, they raised, it's my understanding that their most recent round was 17 million. Before that, they also raised a few more rounds, so probably totally like 25 million. Yeah, I understand that we live in a world where we want to believe that it's possible to do with 4 millions. But to me, 25 million versus 11 billion, guys, you invested in the wrong company. With that in mind, let me introduce Suprabath from Symbol AI, who is going to talk about how to select the right LLM for your company. Please give him a round of applause.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, great to see a lot of people at this hour. For sure. Okay, let me quickly introduce myself. Suprabath Chakilam from Symbol AI. I'm a product manager, leading applied AI solutions for Symbol. I've been a technical product manager. Joined at Symbol as a technical product manager 2 years ago. Prior to that, I was in an e-commerce company as a PM, and I know prior to that, a government SaaS company. Am I still audible? Okay, I think I still need to be much closer. Okay, I could sense the heat from the mic if I'm still closer. All right, okay. Yeah, today's topic, importance of context length and benchmarking scores in choosing LLMs. How many of you heard about benchmarking scores and context length? I'm sure every one of you have heard of it. And you might have also heard of the parameter size of a large language model. 7 billion, 40 billion, 25 billion, to 175 billion, 178 billion, right? And so on. So today's topic is to just open up your mind and just understand, help you understand more about there is something more than the context lengths, the parameter sizes, and also the benchmarking scores that you see in the leaderboards and choosing the right large language model. Okay, so this is, let me quickly introduce what Symbol does. Symbol is an AI platform for conversations. And we have been there for more than 5 years, building task-specific AI models all these years. And now we also have our large language model, which is a foundational large language model specifically for to understand the nuances of human conversations. And so we support all our customers with APIs and SDKs to connect to these models. For example, async API to process conversations asynchronously, and streaming API to process real-time conversations, and also telephony API to process the conversations from a mobile phone or specifically for contact centers and so on. And in the middle, you see that the task-specific large language models, embedding models for context and semantic similarity, and also our generative AI large language foundational model, Nebula. And on the right side, you're seeing call score API, Insights UI, and details and list views, which are generative AI accelerators where you get out of the box APIs that are powered by our large language model. So what does the real world really want? What does it want? So companies and organizations are looking for, so on the, okay, I think you're seeing the wrong, okay. All right, okay, I'm confused again. Okay, I'll look at this and talk. So so there are two worlds here that I'm talking about, because one is the startups, small companies or open source language models that are being published every day. And on the other side, there are these huge giants, OpenAI, Cohere, Anthropic, and so on, Google, Amazon, and so on. So the one thing that I'd love all of you to remember is it's not only just the giants. There are multiple companies and startups that are building domain-specific, specialized large language models that are suitable for organizations and their specific use cases. And similar to Symbol, we highly focus on conversations. So it's not a generic large language model that we built. It's to understand human conversations. And what do companies really look at? These startups or open source models. They look at incumbency. Does this model creator know what they are trying to achieve? Do they have any experience in this space that they are building a model in? For example, Symbol has been there for more than 5 years building conversation intelligence. So we know what customers really want, what the use cases they are looking for, so that we know when we build a large language model, we know what it has to be trained on and what it really does in its own tasks. And businesses look for the support of fine-tuning, model iteration, for example, building multiple versions of the model based on different data, or different models for different use cases. Or do we have the deployment flexibility? Yes, on-prem and cloud, or the private tenant that you wish for. And do we use the data? Do we use the data from our clients? No, we do not train our model based from the data from our clients. And we also have set up our guardrails based and also bias, and there's very competitive. I mean, I wouldn't say there is no bias, because we have very specifically curated our data to not have any bias. And we have already set up the guardrails to not to hallucinate the model. All right. So, okay. So benchmarking LLM, what exactly is a benchmark in LLM? Benchmarking is a standardized performance test for large language models, so that you know where its capabilities are and what its capabilities are to understand just a benchmark. Let me take an analogy here. And so if you are recruiting, so PMG is recruiting right now. So what do they look for in a resume? So do they look for in experience on how many years? Okay, next, probably their graduation GPA, right? But if you look at those numbers, and why do you still interview them? To understand what they really are capable of. That's why you interview everyone, right? It's not just you look at the resume, the data on the resume, and you hire them, right? Similar to that, benchmarks are a good point for companies to look at and select, okay, I will choose a person with GPA 4 or 3.9 and 3.8, but not 3.0, for example. Similar to that, you can choose, it's a good place to start where you look at the LLMs with multiple, with the numbers competitive to the others. But does anyone understand what really that competition, that number, the accuracy of that benchmark is? For example, if they say 90% for this benchmark or 80% for this benchmark, it only say it only is based on the data that it is being tested on, based on that benchmarking challenge. So on the screen, you are seeing multiple benchmarking challenges and its pros and cons. I do not want to get in detail on every of it. We can take a picture of it, or we'll give you a slides. But if you look at this ARC challenge, MCQs, it's just trained on MCQs. Who is going to use MCQs in the real world challenge, in the use cases that you're, unless and until your use case is to support 3rd grade to 9th grade children, it's not a great place to start with to understand. Similarly, HLSWAC, it's a large, so harder endings, longer context, short activities for situations with adversarial generations. That's a long name, but so if you are looking for text summarization, this is a good place to start with. Sentiment, because it is curated on a data set for sentiment completion and so on. And it tests the common sense and reasoning of the generic data, but not specialized domain data. That's a con for that. So you must have heard of this MMLU. You might, it's an extension of SuperGLUE, but it tests the model on large range of subjects or coursework, but it's very limited. I mean, the data seems corrupted. So many blogs came out that this data is not correct on what it is being tested on. So similarly, truthful QA again tests the model's hallucination, and Vino Grande, so it's again common sense reasoning based questions on 44,000 data, but it unintentionally reveals the target label when the large language model tries to answer it. Next, grade school math 8K, so 8,500 questions on grade school math. And this is where it gets interesting, the human evaluation or human evaluation Python, which is, so if you are looking to find or support use cases that are for your engineering teams, so that they could support code completion or building a code template for a point. So this is where you can start with, or an empty bench if you are trying to build a chatbot and you're trying to choose a large language model that supports the chatbot. Empty bench is there because it scores the model on how it performed on its multi-dialogue conversation, how it was able to keep up the context and coherence across the dialogues. Cool. So this is an open LLM board. You can, so it doesn't have OpenAI or Claude data in it, but I think they're downstairs, they're down to the one, but you can look at this. This is from Hugging Face. It's open. It's an open type open LLM leaderboard. You'd get this where you can see all the open source model and their averages and benchmarks of different benchmarks. It could be all the benchmarks that I've shared with you. Let me ask. I'd like to talk about, before I go to the next topic of context length, I'd like to talk about this overfitting. So the benchmarks that you're seeing today is the data set is well known, and it's published. What companies or open source LLM publishers could do is train the model or fine tune the model on the questions or the data set it's being evaluated on. That could be possible. And that's called overfitting. So you're not testing the LLM to its reasoning, but rather just checking if the LLM could answer the question or not that is in the data set. So you might have to be careful when you are evaluating the large language model on a benchmark, because you should understand what it is being trained on and also the architecture of it. And going next to the point, context length. How much, I mean, I'm sure every one of you know about context length. It's just the maximum number of tokens from the input and output that a model can accommodate in a Go. So here are the different context lengths of different large language models out in the market right now. So it's again, you might have a question again. So if the parameter size is high for a large language model, and if the why not the context length higher? So it's again depending on the architecture on how the model is built. So now everyone or most of the top companies are trying to build models with higher context lengths. So Llama started at 2K. We started at 4K. Now we are at 16K, Nabila. But Claude 2 went all the way to 200K, which is almost 65 to 70. No, it's not 65 to 70. It's almost a book of data that it can take in one go. So what do you understand from this? Let me, I think the next slide will explain you on that. So input scope and complexity. What does it mean? So large language model, if the context is larger, it is taking more input data. It is trying to analyze more data, and it is trying to answer from more data. So input scope and complexity. Larger the context, you have all that advantages. Coherence, which means how much a large language model was able to retain from its knowledge, and accuracy. If the context is smaller, and when you ask the question, it was unable to accommodate the answer, the input tokens, you will lose the context, and you will get half-baked answers. So that's why you always prefer large context models. But let me bring a few pros and cons when you choose a large language model. Should you choose a shorter context length model, or should you choose a larger context length model? Go ahead, sorry. We'll talk about that, sure. Yeah. In the next slides, it's coming up. Yeah. If you're looking for it, so it ultimately depends on the use case that you're trying to solve for. If you are looking just to summarize smaller conversations or smaller data, you can choose task specific models. For example, summarization models that are, or question models, or action items specifically trained for action items, and so on. But if you're trying to achieve complex tasks, for example, in our case, there is a call score API where there is a huge set of transcript that goes into the model, and there is a huge prompt to understand how the calls should be scored. And in that case, you would need more context length. Or what you can do is now there are orchestration layers or orchestration tools, which are LangChain and so on, or Llama Index. You can try integrate with them, and the LLM wouldn't lose the context of a larger window even if you use a smaller context length large language model. So with smaller context length, you get responses very fast. I mean, it's sub-milliseconds, I would say. For large language models, sometimes it depends on the infrastructure as well, but it usually takes a few hundred milliseconds to respond. Consequences of a shorter context length is lack of memory or lack of coherence that we just talked about, and because of that, lack of contextual understanding. And for the disadvantages of the large context length is the computational efficiency is low, which is more GPU is consumed, or it takes more time to process, more memory, and if you are trying to train a large language model with higher context, it takes more time to train and more complex as well. The last point I want to bring is it can be inaccurate as well. So this is what I want to stress upon today in this conversation. I'm not sure how many of you have heard of Lost in the Middle, a paper, right? Okay, so not many hands, so let me explain that here in the next con. So this is a phrase or that came up from the researchers, missing the middle, which is in a larger context. And for example, let me take example of Claude, which is 200,000 context length tokens context length. A large language model, when you give a task to it, and it breaks down what researchers observed is it breaks down the context into different nodes and divides it into equal parts, and only the response has been generated from the first highly from it. The context has been taken from highly from the first part of the conversation and last parts of the conversation, and only some parts in the middle. So the context, even though the context length is high, the context is missing from in the middle by the large language model. So, and you can see that the accuracy levels that are retrieved from the first, fifth, and 10th and 15th places of the in a document is lesser. So when you ask questions about the 15th part or the 10th part, it's lesser. So it takes the conversation from the first and in the last. And that's a paper. That's a link for the large Lost in the Middle paper that you can read about. And similarly, for Claude, GPT 3.5 Turbo, other models. These are a few metrics that you can look at. How can you solve this problem? Researchers already also thought about it. How do we solve this issue? And they came up with three. So they started with positional encoding. What it is, so LLM does process in parallel when you ask a question. So it tries to, so for example, summarize a conversation. It doesn't do anything sequential. So the processes that are going in the LLM in the architecture are in parallel. So to solve, because of that, all the parallel tasks, the queries that's going back in the architecture are more focused on the first parts and last parts of the conversation, and it's losing context in the middle. So to solve that, researchers tried positional encoding, which means assigning for every task in the backend a vector, which is a mathematical expression for each token. It has been assigning that vector so that it understands the sequence of tasks that even though they go in parallel, it understands the sequence. There is sub microsecond level difference, so it understands in which sequence the conversation went through or the backend tasks go through. And that's though they tried that, there was not much information or not much accuracy changes. But and there are multiple ways of this positional encoding, which also was brought up in the attention is all everything paper, which was a base for this all the boom of LLMs right now, which talked about the transformer architecture. In that specific paper, they talked about sinusoidal encoding, and there is also linear encoding, and there is relative encoding, and so after trying those different types of encoding, there was not much difference in accuracy. So Llama researchers from Meta and Google also tried, and this rope concept came in, which is rotary positional encoding. So it technically means it rotates a positional vector. So as I mentioned, there is a vector assigned to each token in the backend. So based on how the context is going, progressing over time, the position of the vector is being rotated so that it stays in context. And there is also, so from because because the LLM is only taking the context from the start of the conversation or end of the conversation, uh, they try to extrapolate the context length here in this process, and they also gave a position in interpolation. It's the position of the vector, the embedding here. The result was much worse than what it was expected to be. The accuracy went down after looking at the results, and that's where the concept of on research, the concept of yarn came in, which is yet another rope extension. So it's very similar concept, but the core mathematics has changed. So now instead of using rotary vector embedding, now they are using neutral tangent kernel. So that's a concept. And what happened, what resulted in is, even though you train the model, or the accuracy, even though you ask questions from the middle of the context, the model was able to retain the accuracy from that was getting the data from the start and end of the conversations too. So you might have to look at the architecture that while choosing an LLM, what it is built on and how it is performing. Okay, so out of all the evaluations that you do for in choosing a large language model, what is the best evaluation that you think? Any idea? I mean, we have seen different benchmarks. We have seen different context length, or we know different parameters of the models. What do you think is the best evaluation, or which one to choose? Exactly. Yeah. So what are you trying to achieve is something, the problem statement of your issue. The problem statement is very important, and data curation again is important here. So for example, it's simple. Because we focus on conversations, our data that we test the model on specific conversation tags, for example, summarization. So we curate the data, which is the questions for the model based on the transcript, and also the expected responses, and how accurate the model is in understanding or solving that specific task given to the model. So I recommend everyone to do this. It could be a human evaluation as well. You try ChatGPT, you're asking prompts. When you see the answer, you might see that, okay, this is a great answer, this is a wrong answer, you're hallucinating. So human evaluation is the best way that we do, or curating your data and hitting the API, hitting the model API with that data, and receive the responses and compare the responses with the ground truth. So that's how you can take and choose the large language model. Any questions in there? Go ahead. Yeah, exactly. So that's where, let me put it this way. So if let's assume you're using Llama 2 or Llama, which is 2000 tokens. So and you input a transcript of, I'm talking about in sense of conversations, or the data that is comprised of 1,000 and 1,500 tokens. And you have 1,500 or 500 tokens left so that it could take in one go. So if you ask a question or summarize the data, in your case, Quilly's AI is performing data operations or extracting data from extracting insights from the data. So let's assume what are all the top products that are sold in the e-commerce company today. That itself takes 50 to 100 tokens, that sentence. So you lost 1500 tokens already, and you have 1600 tokens, you're left with 400 tokens. If the answer is more, if the answer that it is generating, because every time large language model responds by predicting the next token every moment, and it gives you the answer. And let's assume that the entire response was not finished in 400 tokens. So you're getting half-baked answer again. So in that case, that's where LangChain came in, where you can where it acts as the orchestrator layer, where you can, even though it's a shorter context model, it can reiterate the data that it's giving without losing the context of the input data which you are trying to get insights from. So that's how you can take it. Any questions? Okay. All right, cool. So let me also talk about what we do, what Nebula is. Nebula is our foundational model for human conversations. It's trained on human conversations, trained for human conversation tasks, which are, for example, summarization, sentiment analysis, um, I would say action items, follow-ups, and so on. Um, Nebula is trained for all forms of communication data. For example, it can be emails, it can be chats and WhatsApp or Slack messages, or so understanding the nuances is where we shine in the human conversations, because it's completely trained on conversation data and trained for human conversation tasks. So if you're trying to build a chatbot, when you compare it with OpenAI, for example, which is ChatGPT, ChatGPT might give you the same answer, but we give you an answer that is more like a human, for example. So I'm just trying to make an example here. Yeah, this is all the communication data that we train on. It's trained on sales calls, customer support calls, internal meetings, webinars, YouTube videos, and podcasts. And it is trained for conversational tasks, for example, such as conversational scoring, which I just mentioned, call scoring. Conversation scoring is something that it can do, chain of thought reasoning, topic detection, subtopic detection, entity extraction, and so on. So these are the conversational tasks that it's trained for. And yeah, and currently Nebula is in private beta. If you want to sign up, there is a QR code, sign up for access to the private beta for the large language model. It's available for Instact model right now. Yeah, let me know if you want to connect me on LinkedIn. There's a QR code. Any questions? I'm happy to take it. Go ahead. Yeah, exactly. So when I say it's completely trained on conversation data, it's trained heavily on conversation data, but it also can code. It understands SQL queries. It provides you the outputs in JSON responses and so on. Yeah. So for example, sorry to cut you off. Let me finish this. Any company, so if it is just a human that is interacting, you can take the answer in the form of a natural language. But if you're trying to automate a process, you need the answer from as an API response. So you need JSON response. Yeah, you need JSON responses. So Nebula is capable of doing that as well. That's a beauty. Okay. We beat the GPT 3.5 in terms of Rouge to score, summarization, and so on. Yeah. See, it's for sure the data. Apart from that, the architecture that it's built on. So almost all LLMs are built on the transformer architecture, encoder decoder models mostly. But there are also self attention, flash attention. So there are different types of attentions that you take. And now there is Mistral which is using mixture of experts where there are multiple different models, and there is an orchestration model where you take the orchestration model takes the input from from the user and passes on that. It decides to which model that it should pass that question to. For summaries, there is some summary specific model. For action items, there is separate action item model. So it passes on to that for coding the separate model and generates a response from different models and orchestrates that and provides a response to the user again. Kind of, yeah. So it's mixture of experts. So there is no one large model interdependency. So you can, which helps customers to, if for example, if you need fine tuning on a summarization task, you could just fine tune a small model. You don't have to fine tune the entire large language model of 175 billion parameters and change the model weights to fine tune. Yeah. Go ahead. How does it compare to so right now I do not remember the benchmarks from GPT-4. But we do beat GPT 3.5 Turbo. That's what I remember. So I think the team is running benchmarks against GPT-4 as well. So because it's not the same benchmarks that we run against that I shared, because it's conversational specific. So we curated the data that we have that we want to score the model on and we want to shine the model on, and that's how we do it. So summarization, text completion, text generation, and so on. I hope that answers. I mean, so Symbol has always been there for more than 5 years now. So we have curated and specific for conversation intelligence company as a conversation. So we have curated the data over 5 years, and now we got a chance to create our own model because of the market. Yeah, and yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Can you talk about like context challenges in terms of like from a multimodal standpoint? Like when you throw images in there, like do we run into the same problems, and are the same solutions also like working for multimodal input?
Sure. When you talk about multimodal, so are you asking if the model is already trained on multimodal data?
Like you mentioned, like there's like context challenges that come with like shorter context, right? Where we like, lose information. When we throw like things like images in there along with like text,
Exactly.
like a text and image to text output, right?
Got
Do
it.
you see like similar challenges?
It's multimodal data is multimodal models has not been in the market as far as the large language models have been. So you're seeing large language models from the past 2 years maybe, and multimodal models came in from the only 2 to 3 months ago. So a lot of benchmarking and a lot of data testing that's going on in there. Even the Gemini model is that Google launched didn't seem like it's what it should be capable of. There is from I think National University of Singapore, there is Next GPT, Hugging GPT is there, which is from Microsoft, and Hugging Face. You can try this. So the concept that these GPTs are using is it's again the mixture of experts. So they have a text generation model or the small language model, small vision model, small video model, and so on. So these kind of and there is an orchestration model again, and that's how most of the multimodal models are being built because it's easy to train for a specific task, and there is not much computational power that is being utilized. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, we do provide the model on-prem as well. So we provide the Docker image. I'm not sure how much it costs for us, I'll have to check with the team. Yeah, but the model is available on-prem, so or you can deploy it in private cloud or a private tenant from us. So it's available everywhere. So, and what was your first question? Sorry. Yeah, there is a LangChain integration. You can go to LangChain's website right now, and there is Nebula is currently hosted as a component in for LLMs, where you can directly, the code is already there. You can directly connect it to Symbols Nebula. Sure. Yeah. You asked the question, right? No. Got it. Okay. Maybe there is a misunderstanding. Let me explain. So it's not a multimodal model. So it again takes the transcript in a textual format or a conversation in a textual format. So whenever you process a conversation with Symbol has its own ASR where the speech-to-text engine, where you transcribe the conversation to English, and then we feed that English data to the textual data to large language model to provide the intelligence. It is owned by Symbol too. So Symbol has been there as a conversational intelligence company or a AI platform conversation for more than 5 years. It started with speech to text, again in task specific AI models, and then now large language model. So it's mostly English, but we do support other languages too. Yeah. I think it's a time we're over time. Yeah. Vladis.
Let's say huge thank you to our second speaker. And this is the second time they came. We met literally during the previous meetup, 2 days before the meetup. I didn't even know that they would be speaking. And then somehow it happened that they came, and it was just awesome to learn about them. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you for what you're doing. Who here actually was at the first meetup, at the December one? A few people, okay. Who here, the next one is going to March. Who here is going to join us during the March event? Cool. Then I have an ask. And if you do not do it, you're not going to be allowed to the next meetup in March. Even worse, the security downstairs, if you don't do what I'm about to ask you to do, they're not going to let you leave the building. You're going to stuck here forever. So please take your smartphone. Show me your smartphone. You do have smartphones, don't you? Just show me, like physically, like evidence. You do. Okay. Now take a picture. Just take a picture of what is happening here. Look at faces that you like, and maybe look at someone whom you don't know, but you're going to meet that person later during the networking session. Now, we are going to do the networking session. Please meet as many people as possible. The idea here is to build the community, right? The idea here is to meet each other, to learn about each other, maybe to find a new job or a new employee or a new investor or a new friend or, I don't know, future spouse. Who knows? We are ambitious people, yeah. Please meet as many people as possible. Please exchange with them your LinkedIn QR codes. Connect with them at LinkedIn. And then maybe tonight, once you get home, or maybe tomorrow, when you just get to work, post this picture on your LinkedIn profile and share your experience of coming to this event. So if you liked what happened here and what is about to happen, there is pizza and wine. It appears that there is not much wine, but trust me, there is enough. So don't be afraid that that is going to disappear. It's there. So tomorrow, post this picture. Write a few lines about what happened here, what you liked, what you didn't like. That's also fine. Tag those people whom you met. Let other people know that the next event is happening in March. We really want the community to start coming here on a regular basis. With all that in mind, thank you so much for coming. Those whom I message directly, may I ask you to join me for a few minutes in that conference room, right around the corner. You can grab pizza if you want to. We can do it with the pizza. And otherwise, it's networking time. Thank you for coming.
Which was the